Welcome, everybody. I'm joined today by Miss Hostile, Dr. Silkman,
Howdy.
Big Jeff, and Kelly. And
Hi,
today's
everyone.
discussion is going to be centered around what are they trying to hide at Cuss Road? Now, I've done plenty of videos before, uploaded all the audio, so this is just going to be a rundown of everything we've learned. I'd like to go around and talk to everybody and ask them once each what they think happened at Cuss Road. Anybody like to go first?
Definitely deception. Whatever they actually found there, we are yet to know. I don't think that it turned out to be peat moss bags and yeah, I definitely don't think it was peat moss bags. I think there was a lot more there. Whether it was Teresa or not, we don't know because there's too much being covered up.
That's the truth. You read the Manitowoc Sheriff's Summary Report, they don't even mention Cuss Road. But they talk about the search teams being brought up, A, B, C, and D, who's in charge of all of them. We have all the dog reports, search reports that conflict with what actually took place. You read Queso, and it's very vague in what they found, and they try to brush it off like nothing happened. Now, listening to both Calumet County's transmissions and Manitowoc's transmissions, something huge happened there. That's a fact.
Yeah.
So,
For me, it's pretty obvious. I work with the inverse law. So if it's not in Queso, if it's not in the trial transcripts, and if Ken Kratz says it's not important, it's huge. It really is important. So whatever, I agree with Miss Hostile. Whatever was found there, it was suppressed. It had to be suppressed. And hopefully with our discussion today, we can uncover more of the shenanigans that went there. I personally knew very little about Cuss Road until I saw a lot of your videos, Millbilly. And really opened my eyes. And I'm sure all of us, thank you a real lot, Millbilly, for your hard work into this.
Absolutely.
It certainly changed my perspective on the entire case. Super
me
job.
too. My very first Cuss Road video, I was re-listening to the audio, finally put some headphones on and was taking notes. And that's where I heard something very, very, very huge. And Big Jeff, would you like to put your sense on things?
Sure. I think there's probably a very good reason why Kathleen Zellner's story has Teresa Hallbach leaving the Avery Salvage Yard, taking a left on that 147 and a left on Q, and then ending up on Cuss Road for some reason. She's by having her and her narrative ending up on Cuss Road, that's raising the attention, that and almost firing a warning shot across the bow, that she's coming after them for the nonsense at Cuss Road. To me, some of the most important things are the planter in chief was in there. Of course, never writing a report. He's the one that managed to convince everybody that this is nothing but a stump. What's he doing there in the first place? He's supposed to be, not even involved because of conflict of interest. He was deposed in Stephen Avery's deposition. Not 2 months ago, a couple of months ago, and yet he chooses to send himself as the ship commander, commands himself to go to the Averys. He ends up at Cuss Road of all places. You don't need to send an ambulance to a place where there's nothing, and a cadaver dog doesn't hit on a shovel.
Nope.
But they showed, even though they showed that same shovel to.
You speaking of Bushmen, here's a newspaper clipping from the Manitowoc Two Rivers Herald Times reporter, dated August 20th.
I've seen him in some other pictures, I think.
and it's Mike Bushman being given an award by Kurik
Hmm.
for Officer of the Year. He's also the dog handler for
Yeah.
the department.
Yeah.
And his dog Duke was trained previously, the year before, in Montana, along with him.
Too bad he didn't stay in Montana.
Why is Bushman, of all people, being brought in on this day? And when he arrives, he's accompanied by Todd Herman. You can go through all the sign-in and sign-out sheets and listen to the transmission calls. Like, Manitowoc is not time-stamped whatsoever. But by me listening as much as I have, I've been able to pinpoint when things are happening. Because Calumet's dispatch is time-stamped. Like, for instance, you have Bushman stating that there's a squad car sitting at the end of Kuss Road. You don't know who's in it. But if you listen to Calumet County Dispatch, they're talking to that very officer, telling him that there's search teams just south of him, and when they come out of the woods, they should be coming directly towards him. Shortly after that, they're all told to regroup, get back, restage, and stop searching. I've played all this audio on previous videos, recently my 11.7 transmission audio. It's very interesting. And Kelly, your turn.
Well, there's not really much else I can say. Everyone's pretty much just summed it up. Kuss Road, something happened, whether it was logically here as I do. I don't know whether it was something was found and what was found. I know it's some kind of significant part of this case. But then I also wonder whether it was used to divert people's attention away from the salvage yards so the planting could also happen over there. Get everyone away and do some stuff. But there is something on Kuss Road. After everything you have showed me, after everything I've heard, there's no denying it. Kuss Road has significance. But what actually was found there, that I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have a little bit of audio I'm going to play for that day. Go ahead, Sub.
I was going to say, guys,
Go ahead.
I also agree with what Big Jeff said about Kathleen Zellner and the fact that she's actually drawing attention to Teresa Hallbach being at Kuss Road. I know she was speculating, but what is interesting is that she's highlighting Kuss Road and events at Kuss Road. Even though she was speculating about Teresa Hallbach turning left on Q, it gives the subtle hint that she's going to be focusing her attention particularly at that region there. Like I said, something huge, something of major significance has been found at Kuss Road. Millbilly, are you going to walk us through to the chronology, how Kuss Road got discovered in the first place?
Yes. Well, when Bushman and them arrive, they're broken into 4 search teams, A, B, C, and D. Bushman and Seglov are in charge of Team A. We have the officer notes from Bushman and his team. Now, Colburn and Link are in the Yonda's house, in Barb's room, collecting firearms.
Yep.
And they get the call to go over to Kuss Road. There's no mention of Colburn or Link being on or at that location in any reports besides the Tyson where they're in Dassey's house and they're then ordered to go to Kuss Road.
To go. Yes, they are.
For some reason, Link is sent away and he's asking if they want him to come back there.
Yep.
And they tell him there's hot dogs at the checkpoint. Go eat some food. we'll get back to you when we want. Now, I'm going to play some of the audio from that day, and it's very key because Colborn and Bushman and Shetter are the main ones really talking. Now, keep in mind, Link and Colborn were with Tyson in the Dassey's residence. They were dispatched over to Kuss Road. So that's where they are. And everything they're talking about is there. The Deer Camp and Kuss Road. All right. I'm going to stop it there because we're going to now look at the sign in, sign out sheets that we have for that day.
But
And
before I have a question before we go there, Millbilly, if I may.
yeah, go right ahead.
I heard one of the very first things that is mentioned is, can we get some barrier tape down there? And who is it that requests that barrier tape?
That's Michael Bushman.
Bushman. So,
Head of CNA.
excuse me. Yeah, I was going to ask you if you had that picture that has the search zones on it, and so we can see what team searched where. And it just so happens
that'll be helpful.
Well, in the Mammothon video, part 2 of it, we go over that too. On that map, the exact thing you're referring to, they have the location where Jason Jost is searching, which is the same location that we see on the flyover where there's a golf cart in a burning barrel.
Yep.
They have...
excuse me.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so my question is, with regard to Silkman's question of how did this all get started? And is the answer because, excuse me, I'm choking here. Is the answer because Bushman's team happened to come across something of interest?
That's what I understand.
And so this audio is from the 6th, right?
7th. November 7th.
Millbilly, there's several people out there who are asking if your transcripts that you have of these dispatch calls, if they're available anywhere.
Yes, I know a few people that have transcribed some of the dispatch I've done and sent it to me. I also know Braun, I believe Holly C, and Yard Dog also not only transcribed some of the dispatch calls, they also went through and they transcribed Barb's interview, because that is horrible to hear. The audio is so poor, especially when they're driving. It's just like Earl's interview when they're driving to the hospital. You can't hear anything. Thankfully, they continued their conversation once they got in the hospital. Side note, Reed Queso, that interview never took place.
He refused to talk. In case.
No, that was the day before. That was on the 8th. Now, if you look at the sign-in, sign-out sheets, you can see Wiegert, Wisconsin State Patrol are on scene as early as 1:19 in the morning. Now, Wisconsin State Patrol, they are not notified about Kuss Road until 3 p.m. All the photos we have from Wisconsin State Patrol on the ground are from the 7th. All the photos we have from the aerial is the next day.
On the 8th.
On the 8th. Then when you see the what appears to be nighttime photos, that's 8th. That's the morning. They were in the air from 6:30 till about 9 a.m. flying over the deer camp, Kuss Road. They weren't focusing on any other areas in these photos. Now, if you go to the Queso photos we have, they went into Manitowoc's evidence storage and took photos that Manitowoc had obtained. Somehow, they took photos of the same areas I don't know if they were the day before or the day after because the crime tape is not there.
So, Millbilly, the actual crime tape itself is put up on the 7th of
The morning
November. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Now, you're going to see Bushman signing in about 7:40. He's accompanied you see it by Todd Herman. Colborn and Link had showed up before them. Then Tyson shows up. When Bushman and them arrive, they're broken up into 4 teams. There goes Sanglob. He's part of Bushman's team. Now, we got Siders. That's a huge name because pretty soon now we got Deb Strauss. Deb Strauss is now on the property. A little bit later, we got Ryan Hilgis and Scott Blodorn signing in. We got to pay attention here because we're going to have Michigan Fire Rescue signing in soon, right here. Michigan Ambulance. Notice they list who's in the car, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, go down a little bit more because this same ambulance now leaves the property. Now, we heard Bushman requesting an ambulance if they were using it. 9:53, Ryan Hilgis and them sign out. Shortly later, Deb Strauss signs out. Now, where it's coming up. We got Pagel coming on. Now, 11:06, Colborn, Lincoln, Bill Tyson are signing out. So that we know they got dispatched from the Dassey bedroom to Kuss Road.
Mm-hmm. Now, just one question, Millbilly. You showed Ryan Hilligus and Scott Blodorn signing in and out. Are you talking about signing in and out at Kuss Road?
No, at the checkpoint.
At the checkpoint. Okay.
And the checkpoint was set up on Avery Road, or the checkpoint was set up on Kuss Road?
It was either set up either at Jambo Creek and Q. Well, I'm sure that's where they had to go in first, and then wherever they had everybody signing in, which was probably at the head of Avery Road.
Okay.
Now we got
the question is, what are them two signing in the first place? They're not law. What are they doing there?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're part of the so-called search team.
I think I went too far. Now we got that Michigan ambulance signing in at 9:09. Where is it? It's in here somewhere. Michigan PD. I'll just let it play. It's going to come up.
You notice they call an ambulance, but they never call a coroner.
Hey.
Well, they did page the coroner.
Well, they don't have anything to kick, right?
Correct.
A stump out of the ground.
Right.
Get out of the ground.
Here we go. At 12:20 p.m., Michigan Fire Rescue is now leaving. They don't say if it's coming or leaving. They don't mention who's in it when it arrived, when it's leaving. Now, when Bushman is radioing in about the ambulance, he's talking to Siders. Siders never signs out. Bushman never signs out. Well, short time later, we got Siders signing out, right? Now they're coming back together. So who was in that ambulance when they left?
Hmm.
Siders
Well, that's very interesting.
Siders and Bushman are siding in together. So Siders must have went to go pick them up.
Huh.
That's interesting.
Bushman never signs out. He signs in at 7:40, and then he's signing back in at 12:50.
And that was the only day that he was there, right?
And look at who also is signing in accompanied right before him. We got 432, Andrew Colborn. 204, James Link. 836, Bill Tyson.
Mm-hmm.
And Siders and Bushman come back together.
Yep. And then we got Dennis Jacobs, rest in peace. John Dietering coming together. Now we got Sheriff Pago and Fassbender coming together. Robert Herman now shows up. Hunt Cedar and the K9 unit now shows up.
Now, Millbilly, all of these are at the checkpoint. Is that correct?
Yes.
Right. So, do we actually have a record of the people that were down at Kuss?
Nothing. They completely ignore it. They don't even mention it.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to continue the audio because it gets good. They're about to start looking for Bushman because he's MIA. That's Jacobs and Link.
204. Could you give me a 21 on my cell phone? 496 to 752. 496 to 752. 496 to 752. 496 193. 496 752. 496 496.
Listen.
Teresa Horbach.
Yep.
That's
West
what I hear.
Avery's.
Oh.
Bushman is on another assignment. Well, what you think?
Yeah, where does one start? Is it actually possible that Bushman was in the ambulance?
He had to transport those moss bags somewhere.
Could it be that whatever they found, Bushman and somebody else went in the ambulance?
Okay. Why wasn't Wisconsin State Patrol notified about this until 3 p.m. in the afternoon? They've been on the property since 1 in the morning.
Well, to me, it indicates a covert cleanup.
Remember, they're talking. They're talking on the Whisper channel. If the dispatcher hadn't switched over, we wouldn't hear any of this.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Ooh.
The mere fact that they're mentioning Teresa Horbach's name,
Yeah.
the rest of the
Avery's.
Man, you can't get a more.
Stevens.
Now, shortly after this, We have this phone call.
County Sheriff. Hey, can you connect me to the DA's office? Sure. Hold, please. County Sheriff's Office. Joyce. Yeah. How you doing? Okay. Hey, they didn't find the body, did they? No, not that I know of. I just heard a vicious rumor that someone reported to Sutner's that, I mean, the gal that works at Sutner's with Diane is a first cousin of Teresa. Okay. But then they supposedly heard over the scanner. Not true, huh? Not my scanner. Okay. Thank you. Not my frequency. Okay. Okay. Alrighty. Bye-bye.
Not my frequency.
Not my frequency.
Bill, hi, Jason, and have him call our office right away. Yes. In the DA's office. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Well, isn't that special?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounded more and more like you were right, Dr. Silkman, that Bushman was in the ambulance. That's why he didn't sign out when it left, and why he had to sign in when he came back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Big Jeff.
I'm just wondering how it's possible that all of this evades documentation.
Well, I mean, it evades documentation if you're trying to keep something covert and secret. If you're trying to run with the story that Teresa Hallbuck never left the Avery salvage yard and was killed there and burnt in the burn pit, you've got to remove any type of evidence that she was off the property. And it's pretty obvious because Kathleen Zorner gave the very, very strong hint. I agree with you, Big Jeff. She's pointing to one location. She's pointing to Kuss Road. And like I said, if you've got an ambulance, you've got a means to put whatever was found at Kuss Road, dig it up, put it in a bag, put it in the ambulance and disappear with that evidence. Right, and correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't someone possess a crematorium?
Yeah.
Bushman's family, his wife's family owned
a couple, right?
Yeah,
the
yeah.
funeral home.
And we've all looked at the we've all looked at the cremains. All of us agree that those cremains look like they've been through a crematorium.
Oh, absolutely.
Not to joke or anything like that, because it's very, very serious.
Yeah.
But to transport a body and plant a body onto the Avery salvage yard is a hell of a lot harder, right? Because they don't find anything until the 8th or the 9th, right? So if you look at the sequence of events, it tends to suggest that they did find a torso or part of a torso belonging to Teresa Hallbuck. They secreted it out via the ambulance, took it to the crematorium, converted it to bones, put them in a bucket, headed over to the Avery salvage yard, and there you go.
Now,
there you go.
if they did in fact find bones like they say in the Stephen Avery's burn pit on the 8th, why aren't they paging the coroner to the 9th? And why is everything being found the single day that not a single dog is on the property?
Well, the thing is that Bushman knows about dogs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's the perfect guy to get out there because we all know what happened. I mean, you guys did a fabulous mammothon presentation, right?
Yeah.
The owner of Loof was told.
If people watched that mammothon and the interview with Ness we did, this is why I was asking the questions I was to her.
Yes.
Because they found something there. Had she been laid, say, in a tarp and then laid on the tarp, that would explain why the dogs were confused when they were finally let into the area. Now,
Correct.
this is not from the 7th. This is from the 9th, but I still want to play it because it's fucking huge.
Kelsey. Hey, Paul. What's up? Did you hear? There human bones that we found? I heard about some of them, yes. Yep, okay. We got another file that we found. Okay. And our crime scene has now expanded by about 2 miles. What we're looking at doing is trying to find, there's no way we can organize a search this evening. We're trying to find law enforcement staff for tomorrow morning to start searching. And I don't have a state patrol supervisor. Okay, I'll call them. How many people are you looking for from them? If we can get up to at least 40, that'd be great. Okay. What time? 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Okay. Command post. Okay. And then if you can check with the PD, see what if they can provide any staff. I want law enforcement. At this point, we're not sure if we really want firemen. We want to stick with. We know what we're looking for evidence-wise, and we kind of want to stick with that. Okay. I got Fruit sitting up at command post. I'm just covering a corner right now. And when I get back, I think he can provide us some manpower as well. So from Kakata PD. Okay. And drone it? Yeah. Yeah. You got some scratch paper there? Now what he's doing is he burned her in the backyard, and that was a real small pile that was left. And we got 2 5-gallon pails full down at this other site about 1.5 miles, 2 miles away. About 1.5 miles away, probably. And we got a feeling we got more pails full out along the way somewhere. So. Okay. How many people are you looking for from the PDs? How about if I just ask for more troopers? Well, if they can spare them, I don't know if they're going to be able to spare them. If they can't get us 40 to 60. If we can't get 60 people out of troopers, let's try the PDs in as well. Okay. If we have at least 60 searchers, and we're going to go in small, we got to get really tight, and we're going to have to search really small parameters. So, otherwise, I think that was kind of why we missed some of this stuff. We had so many people doing so large of areas that we were missing things, basically. Okay. We did good searching, but we were only looking for a body. Now we're looking for smaller. Okay. How much have you looked through our scheduling? How many of our staff? Not for tomorrow. I'm not at the command, but we're all kind of spread thin here right now. That's why I wanted to give you a call. We got tonight squared away, this afternoon squared away for security. We're going to need another person for security, too. We're going to need 2 more people tonight for security. We got Joe coming in. I wish I don't have the schedule messed up in front of me. Work on getting us people tomorrow morning, and then our records back to me will go up and work on securing that crime scene until tomorrow morning. Okay, I'll make some calls. All right, thanks. Yep, bye.
Well, what if his attorneys would have had that audio back in 2007 when they went to trial?
It would probably have been a whole different ball game.
Why don't you explain to people how you know that they didn't have it?
Because I talked to Jay Buting. And I messaged him the blue randomly one morning. Within 6 minutes, he messaged what I was doing. And if he could answer any questions, he would. And he did answer a few. But then he went on to say that
Millbilly, I think you're guitaring.
Yes, you're cutting out.
he'll be called in a
Millbilly, you are guitaring, sir.
being jammed by.
Evidentiary hearing.
That's it. They're after him now.
Well, I mean, that
Likely.
to me, that to me needs to go in front of a grand jury.
So
It's pretty obvious. It's pretty obvious now what has happened. The initial discovery was probably on likely the 7th. I don't know what those searchers found. They obviously found something, and I reckon part of her body was found. That's why they refer to a body.
Isn't it a bit of a coincidence to you, Dr. Silkman, that it just happens to be Bushman's team that happens to be assigned to the area, that happens to come up with something that they need the tape in the ambulance for? That's just too much of a coincidence to me to believe is a coincidence. Let's put it that way.
If you're going to do a setup, and there was definitely a setup, you got to make sure that the person involved in the setup never hits the stand, never gets questioned, and the Bushman never was questioned. So therefore, everybody else down the track has got plausible deniability. They know nothing. So
what a great point.
So in other words, people can actually be on the stand and say, I know nothing about what took place. Because if he found part of a torso, I think I have a good idea what has actually happened now. If he actually found part of a torso, he took it with him, put it in a bag, and what he did was sanitize the scene. In other words, he dug up all around the area. He knows about dogs. He knows the dogs would have gone bananas in one spot. When you're talking about a cadaver dog and also a scent dog. So he sanitized the scene because he prevented Pagel prevented Loof from crossing the line because the dog would have given the game away. So think about this. If they put the body or part of the torso in a bag, they knew who it was. You take it to the crematorium. Yeah, Bushman left with the ambulance, right?
Did Bushman show up with his dog?
Is the dog still living?
Possibly.
Most likely.
You think about it. All you got to do is did Bushman have a cremains dog or a scent dog?
Don't know.
Yeah. So the dog basically guided him to where he had to go. And so what you do is you take part of the torso that they found, you secrete it away in the ambulance, you then take it to the crematorium. And that explains why so much of the skeletal remains are gone. Because I have an awful feeling that the victim, in this case, I personally believe it was Teresa Horbach, was cut to pieces and she was being sequentially burnt, likely in a burn barrel, and they were dumping the cremains in the Manitowoc County gravel pit, those debris piles, right? And that's why they got shocked when they said, oh, God, the crime scene has just been expanded by a couple of miles, right? Because they now started finding human bones in the Manitowoc County gravel pit. So whoever was doing the deed was obviously cutting up the torso bit by bit, burning it in a burn barrel, dumping the debris in the Manitowoc County gravel pit and doing it sequentially, but they got found out.
Yeah.
Right?
Would that lead you to have some kind of suspicion as to who was doing this cutting of the body, having to be located somewhere probably close in the vicinity, though? That just came to me. It's like if you're going to be doing this at a bit of a time and you keep going back to this body, you got to live somewhere in the area or know the area pretty well to be able to do that.
But how they didn't handcuff Radon, I'm not saying he's guilty, but
Well,
it's in his backyard.
These are notes. Now, I don't know if this is what he found or what they were looking for, but majority of these items on here, they do find the license plates, the camera, her cell phone, her purse is missing, clothing's gone, tracks, vehicle, don't know what that's about, 5 to 10 foot something. 1206, Siders, Fox remain on cell phone with tire rim burning in barrel. Here's the front page of, well, that's the back page, it's Bushman. Here's the front page. Sorry, it's sideways. Team A, group leader, Michael Bushman. Now, I've done this before. I've gone over all this in my previous Cuss Road videos. When they were broken into teams, Bushman was head of Team A. You notice we got Senglob, Siders, Bushman. That's it for Manitowoc. But we hear audio. We heard Cheddar, Senglob, Bushman, Colborne, Link, Jacobs, all of them. But there's not a single report of them being there. You read the Manitowoc Summary Report, they only talk about being on White Cedar.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've gone over all this in previous videos.
The only thing I struggle with, because I actually agree, I'm starting to agree with Silkman that they found some kind of torso. They found something of hers themselves, right? The only thing that always stumps me, and this is my logical side, if they had anything, why wouldn't they use it if they knew they were going to frame Stephen? Why wouldn't they have used what they had, even the torso, and dumped it just straight in his burn pit just to really enhance?
But they'd already had dogs out there. They'd already had dogs out there.
No, at the bottom of this sheet, it says
that's a good point.
Cal County found stump. And he also writes that they're on Jambo Creek, Avery Road. No, that's not true.
Now, is White Cedar a road that's off of Cuss Road, or is Cuss Road a dead end?
You turn onto Cuss Road off of Q, heading east, and on your left, heading north, is White Cedar off of Cuss Road.
Oh, okay.
I have the photo I can demonstrate.
Yep.
This right here.
Oh, okay.
This is White Cedar.
Yeah.
Now,
the left.
Earlier, Miss Hostile was doing a little digging, and we found something very interesting about this property right here. And what is that?
I went through and was just pulling up some information on that house, which is 4183, I believe the address is, for Cuss Road. And it shows that every year it showed the taxes that were paid for that property, except there were no taxes that were required or paid for 2005 or 2006. Nothing.
And every single one of these homeowners or property owners around the Avery area on White Cedar and Cuss Road all gave them verbal permission to search their properties, including Josh Redant in his deer camp. Now, we all know that when he showed up, he seen that his burn barrel was surrounded in tape.
Yep.
So did they find all these items really in Josh Redant's burn barrel, and then they transferred everything the next day? So Wisconsin State Patrol is not notified till 3 p.m. on the 7th. That's where we get all them photos of being on the ground. They don't do a proper crime scene investigation till the following day after everything's been cleaned up. You notice they wouldn't let Loof and the dogs in there initially, but then they brought them back to make sure they didn't leave anything else behind.
Correct. Has there ever been an inventory of the people that were staying at the deer camp?
It was more a hunting camp.
Yes. Well, I mean, did they take names? Have they got a list of names who was down there?
No, but it'd be nice to get a list of people that had access to that property and hunted on it.
Yes.
Dr. Silkman, were you talking about law enforcement or just Rodant's guests?
Civilians.
Civilians,
okay.
basically anyone who basically had access to that location.
And this
Because
trailer is
because
no
it
longer there.
really, it's really in a hot zone. It's right. It's sort of like right in between the Avery property and Kuss Road. It's ridiculous. Yeah, and it's secluded, very,
Right.
very secluded.
Mm-hmm.
But we've talked many times about how it would be very difficult actually to reduce a body in an outdoor fire to that
Yeah.
level of cremains.
Yes.
And it does look like there was some attempt at least to burn the body. There is only one person who actually reports a very, very foul smell, and that's Travis Grohl. But he does not report that smell on the 31st, does he, Mobility?
No, and Zellner references his affidavit, and I have never seen it. I'd
love to see it.
I've looked.
Well, I mean, if I could just make the comment, I think it was Professor Symes or Dr. Symes,
Mm-hmm.
one of Zellner's experts, he's a forensic anthropologist. He said the torso is the hardest part of the body to burn. Right, you've got the limbs; they're fairly easy to burn, but the torso is very hard to burn. And what he said was that people, I know it sounds macabre, but he said that people get very frustrated trying to burn the torso because the ribs and the spinal column are very hard to burn. So he said that often what happens is that they actually bury the remains, the torso, right? So I reckon what they found at Kuss Road is the torso. In other words, the rib. You have a look at what's missing. A lot of the ribs are missing. A lot of the spinal cord is missing, and it's quite possible that what they found was part of the torso, the upper torso of her body, and they took it and they burnt it. They converted it to bone fragments, and all they did was then put it in a bucket and plant some of it in the Avery salvage yard because it's easier to transport bone fragments, easier to hide them than try and carry a torso with you. You know, you can imagine, right? It's going to be very, very hard. Plus, there were dogs on the 5th, right?
Yep.
There were dogs on the 5th. And so Ken Kratz had to explain why nothing was found until the 8th or the 9th, right?
Yeah.
And he said, because there was a vicious dog there, right? And
but
I know Mill Billy's put this picture up here. I love this picture. It goes to show, first of all, that Andrew Colburn perjured himself on the stand, right? There's no question about it. You have a look at all the people that were there, all the law enforcement, all the assets. You got a crime lab, you got an ambulance, you've got you got roads that have been blocked off. Never have I ever seen all this law enforcement over a tree stump, right? Over a fake burial. So
if it was just a tree stump, why is Wisconsin State Patrol coming back the 8th and doing some kind of survey of the area?
Yes.
They did forensic mapping of the whole area. Now, if you read the photos that Austin and them took from Wisconsin State Patrol on the 7th after they arrived and notified of it after 3 p.m., they state that Kuss Road is the Avery property.
Yes. In a lot of reports, no matter where it is, it's always in reference to the Avery property.
What?
They always give a distance because what they want to do is they want to associate any finding with the Avery salvage yard, right? No matter where it is. It's half a kilometer away. It's 2 kilometers away. They always have to give it as a reference to the Avery salvage yard, right?
Mhm.
So if they did find something, which I believe that they did, and they put it in the ambulance and Bushman went away with it, what they had to do is to ensure that once they took away the crime scene tape, that no one was going to go down there and find something like a bracelet, a personal item, a bone. They
Yeah.
had to make
but
sure that it was
that
all
same Wisconsin
tight.
State Patrol report, when they go to the deer camp and Radon's property, they're labeling it as they're at the deer camp and Radon's property. But on Kuss Road, it's labeled Avery property.
Correct. Because you have to give the impression that where they found these cremains or body parts is the salvage yard. You can't say, oh, off the property, right? Because the whole case will fall apart. And this is exactly why Dr. Eisenberg, could not give a definitive answer on the pelvic bone, because the pelvic bone destroys the entire case, right?
Right.
Because allegedly they found part of a pelvic bone in the burn pit, and they found part of a pelvic bone in the Manitowoc County gravel pit. How on earth are you going to account for one victim and her pelvis is in fragments a couple of kilometers apart, right? So that pelvic bone, the answer is simple. That pelvic bone that they found in the burn pit never was in the burn pit. The investigators did not know about the debris piles in the Manitowoc County gravel pit.
Well, I'm going to respond to a comment that Teresa wrote. Wisconsin State Patrol wasn't notified about the Kuss Road area until after everything was cleaned up and removed. But they were on the Avery property since 1 a.m. So why did they wait so long to notify them?
Well, you have to sanitize the scene. You have to ensure that there's nothing there, right? And that's why Bushman, who has experience in dogs, he knows what they're going to find, right? The mere fact that Loof wanted to go across that yellow tape and Pagel prevented it. Oh, It's crazy. You hire right? You hire dogs to give you an answer, but you don't want to know what the answer is.
Yeah.
So you stop them. Stop them.
Well, they even said that the dogs are supposed to get there first, right? You really want the dogs to have a chance to do the area first before the people have a chance to contaminate the scene, and that's just
Correct.
did it just the opposite way, didn't they? And they did forget one thing. They didn't sanitize one thing. They forgot about one thing, didn't they? The shovel. And the cadaver dog hit on the shovel. Oh,
they thought they got rid of all the audio.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah, I mean, this is so blatant. It is so overt. It's actually so scary that both Brendan and Stephen are sitting and rotting in prison. Where, guys, you could be in high school. A high school student will tell you what happened. It wasn't what Ken Kratz and his fantasy came up with. That I don't know who was the mastermind behind it, but I'll tell you what, they had to act quick, really quick.
Was Bushman on the property, on Avery property, the day that the bones were found?
No,
I don't know.
No, he was only there one day. That was it. That day he discovered it, he's done.
Signed in at 7:40, signs out at 12:50, comes back.
Yep. Bushman is your mastermind.
He then signs out at 4:35 p.m. and never comes back again.
Yep.
And I'm trying to remember.
Bushman is your mastermind.
Who was the officer who found the first? Was it Dietering or Remacher that found the first bone by the fire pit? Jacobs by the fire pit. Okay.
But you don't know what was found at the burn pit.
Well, that's
You
the
don't
thing.
know whether they just.
The
You don't know
coroner-
whether they just simply
Yeah,
threw a
why?
couple of
That's why I'm
random
so
bones.
baffled why the coroner wasn't called out to cuss.
Correct.
Well, the
Correct.
coroner wasn't notified until the 9th by Greg Shetter at 7:30 p.m. He's contacting and paging the Calumet County Sheriff. Why is the Manitowoc doing every? Manitowoc is the one that orders on the 6th of November for the dogs to go to Twin Bridge Road. That's the 32-page report we're missing 30 pages from. I am under the impression that they also went to the turnaround too,
Yeah.
and the other's location her car was spotted, but they just failed
Correct.
to give them reports.
Yes.
Now, Braun FOIA'd this info, all these new dog reports, and she contacted Zellner to find out if Zellner may have got the missing 32 pages. I've yet to find out if she's responded yet, but it'd be very interesting to find out if she does or doesn't. Because if she doesn't, it's going to be another thing to add to the list.
Mm-hmm. Another Brady violation.
Yeah. So it's
But
so obvious now. It's so obvious now what they did.
Clearly, they didn't have Calumet's dispatch audio, or they didn't do nothing with it. I'm talking about Stephen's attorneys, but they had Manitowoc's, and they missed everything I found.
Yes, the case was too big. The case was too big for them to basically dig deep. I mean, they really went with the blood planting scenario. They never in their mind thought this is a body planting scenario as well. It went that deep.
It raised the question, who knocked on the door at Leo's house on Thursday?
Millbilly, there's a good comment down there by Carla Black for you.
Yeah, I said that earlier. I said that tonight too. They said,
can you read it?
Okay. Didn't Millbilly say in previous video that they looked like they were using the dogs to go back and recheck they had been properly cleaned up? Sending the dogs away, cleaning up, then rechecking. That's exactly what I believe happened.
Yeah.
Loof was on an intense track.
Yeah.
Wanted to go past the barrier tape, and they said, go away, come back.
It's a crime scene. It's a crime scene. What, are you kidding?
If you listen to the 11.7 transmission audio I posted,
Correct.
You hear them, once Cuss Road is discovered, they say, all right, I need to stop searching. I need you guys to regroup.
You can be on.
So I'd like to ask you, everyone on the panel, with that same question that I was asking before. Do you think that, yes, they found a torso and that somebody was going back piece by piece and burning this body, or somebody lived in the area and was doing this randomly? What do you guys think?
They found something of Teresa Hallbach's west of Avery's off the property that they claimed she never left.
Yeah.
I always thought maybe they found something of her head and that's where the bullets came into it. How do we know law enforcement, when they made their decision they were going to frame Avery, that they didn't put the bullets in her head after the fact?
Why is
I can answer that.
Why is Wiegert telling Stephen Avery on the 9th that they found the plates yesterday and we found some of her bones today?
Yes.
And then from that duration on, every time they reference Teresa Hallbach, it's a body. We found her body. The dogs took us to where the plates were. The dogs took us to where the body was. Stephen Avery doesn't react until they bring up the bloody handprint they allegedly found.
Correct.
He doesn't react to them finding bones, doesn't react to them finding a body, doesn't even react to them finding the plates. But as soon as they mention his prints in her car and the bloody handprint, which is all lies, but I know
Could be A23 they're talking about. It's not his.
You take into consideration, we have audio of them finding bones on the 9th. Now we got Wiegert telling Stephen Avery, we found bones today.
Yes.
I mean, I'm being logic about what I'm hearing. It doesn't make sense when you read the reports.
what it does demonstrate is they never found one entire body. They found a part of a body. And what they didn't realize is that there were cremains in the Manitowoc County gravel pits, 3 locations of them.
Now,
So what they're trying to do is to put a story together now.
you've read Kratz's book.
Unfortunately, yes.
You can see how excited he is about
Why?
Why would he write 2 chapters and then add that part about Kuss Road?
Well, what he's trying to do is he's trying to diffuse everything that Zellner has found, or her experts. So he's trying to downplay. So now he realizes a couple of things. One, IMFL is bogus, right? So the way he explained it was, okay, it never struck your skull, right? But unfortunately, during the trial, that was a huge impact. So now he goes, it never struck her skull, it went through her body. With Kuss Road, you know what he says? He goes, okay, so what if they're Teresa's bones? Stephen put them there, right? So if you have a look at the picture that Millbilly put up, right? Now, you've got the Kuss Road so-called burial site. Now, if you have a look at the way it's been roped off with the tape, and if you have a look at, it's got a blue tarp, it's got lights, it's got all law enforcement, it's got the crime lab, ambulance. It's been treated like a proper crime scene, right? If you look at Stephen Avery's burn pit, it's an afterthought, right? They stuck a blue tarp on it and it's abandoned, right? Because they know there's nothing there. In fact, they had to use an end loader to dig it out, right? So they can give the false impression, oh, yeah, we dug it out and we sifted it to get bones. Nonsense. It's all smoke and mirrors, right? Mm-hmm. So all they have to do is present bones in a box. Those cremains could have come from anywhere, right? Eisenberg was never on the property. She wasn't part of finding the cremains. You don't have Deborah Catchcatch, the coroner, who would have come on, kicked everybody off, brought her own team of experts, and did a grid, right? So therefore, what you do is whatever was found at Kuss Road, you deep six it, you suppress it, right? And if you're going to set Stephen up, it's easier to use cremains because they're small, they're fragments, they're the size of not even your thumb. That's how small they are. You put them in a box, no one's going to know you got them. You dump a few around the place, done. But what they didn't realize was another thing. They never realized that there were human cremains in Yonder burn barrel number 2, right? So how did Ken Kratz explain that? Oh, well, Stephen picked up a couple of cremains from his burn pit, decided to put them in his sister's burn barrel.
No. As to this comment right here, I refer to that as the pork and beans photo. Because that's what it looks like to me.
That photo that you have up is very telling on the right-hand side because you can see the size of that tarp, right? Look at the size of it compared to that propane tank. What's that, a 200-gallon tank, 500-gallon tank?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
When Stephen Avery makes a Christmas call to Barb's house and talks to Scott Tadich, he asks Scott, how big was the fire when you came home from the hospital? Scott Tadich says, "Oh, it was it was small, about the size of a coffee table."
Yes.
Compare that blue tarp to the size of a coffee table.
Yes.
Even before, when they're there, one of the officers or somebody was, I can't remember at this point. I've got so much going on in my head. They asked for the width of that thing, 4 foot by 4 foot. That's obviously been created to be or appear much larger than 4 foot by 4 foot for that burn pit.
Yep.
Well, that's why we get said to Brendan, "Hey, come on! It's the size of a small coffee table. What's going on here, right?" And when the fire expert Dahan, he said, you need so much fuel to pump into that burn pit that to get flames 10 feet high, he goes, you'll have debris everywhere. There's
Well,
nothing.
I have
There's nothing.
experience. I told Jeff about this before when I used to live outside of Milwaukee in the sticks. My buddy's parents owned a auto body shop, and he lived right next door. And behind the auto body shop, probably about maybe 50 to 60 yards from the building, he had his fire pit. And I had just moved from Milwaukee out to Slinger, so we burned all the shit that I didn't want anymore. It ended up being 2 couches, a computer desk. Well, the fire
No bodies, Will Billy. No bodies.
The fire got so hot it melted the siding on his father's building.
Yes.
Oh, yes. My ex-husband used to burn, he would take his diesel fuel or oil from his semi and put that on, because we lived out in the boondocks in Illinois. And he would put that on there, and the smoke and the smell of that, and everything. It was all over the place, but massive, massive amounts of flames.
Yes. This one over here. Yeah. This slide here is just incredible because it goes to show the deceit of Eisenberg. Like Eisenberg was finding cut human bones absolutely everywhere, right? There were 3 debris piles. Ken Kratz did not want to talk about it, right? So if that's the case, why did the state give back these cremains to the Hallbach family in 2011, right? Including that pelvic bone, right? So even if Ken Kratz didn't want to talk about it, it meant that there was a human victim in the Manitowoc County gravel pit, right? What did Dr. Eisenberg say? 1 victim, no duplicate bones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, no one can explain what those human bones are doing in the Manitowoc County gravel pit. All of them are cut, burnt to the same degree, right? And they contain evidence of saw cut marks with a blade.
Can they explain where those bones they found went?
I don't know because according to the CASO report, they went through all the bones and they picked out the human bones and they gave them back to the Hallbach family.
And now they're stating that they were animal bones?
No. The reason why the judge knocked it back was because her argument, or whoever the judge was, said, they're not experts in distinguishing human from non-human bones. There's no argument here, guys. There's no argument here. Even though the report says, according to Eisenberg, the human bones were removed and given back. So you can clearly see there's a big problem. There are human bones in 3 separate locations. The burn pit, Yonder Burn Barrel number 2, and the Manitowoc County gravel pit. So,
Dr. Silkman, I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
No.
Even though many of those bones were, small, you said smaller than thumb size, would an expert forensic anthropologist be able to determine from any of those fragments their skeletal origin?
Yes, because what happened, with the exception of long bones, so the bones in your arms, the bones in your legs, they're called long bones. They're different. That's why if you look at Eisenberg's report, she goes arms or legs, because they're only tiny fragments. So they could either be from your arm or from your leg. But different bones in your body have got different morphologies. That's why they could tell your skull bone because when you flip over the skull bone, underneath the skull bone, there are tracks. That's your blood vessels. So they know that it's cranial bones, right? So rib has got the round nature of the bone. You could obviously tell jaw and things like that, and also the spine. But remember, 60% of the skeleton is nowhere. No one knows where it is.
Still out there.
This is whoever cut up the victim has either kept part of the body or Bushman's got it. Someone's got
Dr.
it.
Selfman, you were going to answer. Kelly had made the statement about the body, the head being shot. You were going to answer that?
Yes, correct. What happens is if you shoot the skull is the hardest part. The skull contains the hardest part, the hardest durable bones in your body, because the skull is multi-layered. You've got an outer table, you've got a matrix in the middle, and you've got an inner table as well. Mm-hmm. What happens is you've got brain as well. So if you shoot a human being that's alive or intact, you're going to get a specific fracture pattern. If you shoot a bullet into an empty skull, you have fracturing, right? The bone fractures in a certain pattern. And Eisenberg said, yep, the skeleton was intact. In other words, the individual was still intact when the bullet struck, right? And she could tell because of the way the bones were burnt. So
I get that, but 2 seconds earlier you said you can't trust Eisenberg's
you can't.
No.
either. So you kind of have to weigh it up. Like, is she talking shit? True. Or because it can? I get what you're saying because I agree. Skull's got different layers, and you are so right. You're listening. I'm like, yep. But you're also going on her perspective of it, which she talks about chicken bones being fetuses, for God's sake. So
yes.
You just can't really trust her right now. I always just thought it's a possibility. Everything's now a possibility. Those could have been after the fact. She could have died by strangulation for all we know. We just don't know. We just don't know.
Tell. Yep. Even when they spoke to the medical examiner, he said, I can't tell you whether she was alive when she was shot or dead and then shot. But the point is this, she wasn't a skeleton when she was shot. She was still intact.
No, she was still intact.
Because what happens is, if you shoot a skull that's empty, you get highly specific fracture patterns because there's no brain. You've totally changed the dynamics of the skull, right? So her skull, she was still intact when shot.
Yeah, I just thought she might have been decapitated, and they've shot the decapitated head, maybe. Like, just, I don't know. It was always, I've seen it, a few theories. A lot of people, when they talk about Kuss Road, a lot of people said, what if they found her body there and that's when the gunshot came into play? You know, that's why I just wanted to add that into this discussion.
Correct.
With what you said, Dr. Silkman, because you just said something that clicked something in my head. You said Bushman, if Bushman had them. Okay, so I can perfectly see them giving what they found, what Bushman took off of the property, and giving that to Halbach's family, and then turning around and just giving the rest of the remains so they had their whole daughter.
On the 11th, on 11th of November, we have the coroner from Winnebago County calling because they have a cremation authorization for a death that occurred in Calumet that they're handling. Also, we have Euchre Funeral Home in Sheboygan calling because they need authorization for a cremation too. Don't know if it's connected, but awfully strange. We also have an insurance company calling to speak to the lead investigators. Was it for Teresa?
I would say so, yes. In fact, didn't insurance pay out for Teresa?
I have to say this, and I haven't said this out loud. When I first went and looked in to one of the numbers that Brian Hilligus was calling, one of the numbers that he was calling was supposedly the board licensing board. Well, you know what they also do there? The crematory information is there. The
Interesting.
first thing that came up on my screen was crematory when I put that phone number in.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Yes. I mean, you can't dispute it. You can't dispute it. One, Stephen Avery's burn pit could never cremate a human being. Burn them? Yes. Cremate them? No flipping chance in hell.
No.
Now, when you've got a fire expert, a professor, a person who burns human bodies, and he wrote a book, a huge book, on what happens when you burn torsos, right? Plus, they also burn torsos in India, right? In the funeral cremation piles. Man, you need a huge amount of fuel.
No.
He must have. Dahan must have started laughing his head off when he said, "You got to be kidding, right?"
TikTok Manitowoc fangirl, TTM fangirl, has been asking me who was requesting a dolly on the November 7th from the Calumet County transmissions. Well, it's Jeremy Hawkins. He's assigned to watch the burn barrels at the garage. Why is he playing barrel tag and moving everything around? Why does he need a dolly?
Because it's heavy.
Well, you need a dolly to transport something heavy. That's what you do.
If you notice,
He could put it on his side and roll it.
this is what I believe happened. We got every burn barrel they collected. There's a tarp stuffed inside of it. So I believe they took the burn barrel, laid the tarp on the ground, dumped what was inside the tarp onto the tarp, out of the barrel, then took the tarp, balled it up, and stuck it in the barrel. And then Jeremy Hawkins came along and played switcheroo with the tarps.
Correct.
That's very interesting. How did they extract, if they did find Teresa's body at Kuss Road? The thing, if I was a guilter, I'd be looking at the picture that you showed, and I would say, oh my God, look at all the cars that were there. The conspiracy that you're asking for is just too big. What could they have done to sneak it out? Boy, there were burn barrels that. That's an burn barrel is an interesting theory.
Whatever they had to use, a tarp, a big plastic sheet, wrap it up, put it in a container. No one's going to know. We're not talking about a whole human. We're probably talking about something that is about 2 feet, right?
Okay.
Cut up 2 feet, because you've got, and I believe Kelly's correct. I think she was decapitated. Right, decapitated, arms removed, legs removed. You look at the pelvis. I looked at the pelvic fragment that was at the Manitowoc County gravel pit. Oh my God, the blade cuts in there, straight up and down. You could only do that, because I had this argument with Bron. Right, you can only do that if the body is bisected. Bisected. In other words, cut up into fragments and then cut down this way, cut down that way. That's the only way you're going to get that pelvic bone fragment. It's bizarre.
Well, the best person that would know how to dismember a body would be a hunter.
Oh, no question. And that's why with Dr. Symes, he's got a deer dressing kit, right? And what he did, he was smart. He got a bone and he used all the blades. So he actually knows the size of the blade that did the cuts, right? So there are hesitation cut marks in there, which means that somebody started to cut and then stopped, right? So someone was cutting the bone and then stopped. Other blade marks go straight through, right? And what did people say? What did he say? He goes, the best way to get rid of a body is to cut it up, transport it in plastic bags. Ain't nobody gonna know.
I mean, yeah. If you're carrying something in plastic into the ambulance, you'd think people would, either that or you sneak it in there somehow, right? You can small enough.
Why are the dogs and scent dogs going from the tree stump location through the deer camp, through the quarry, on to Q, like they were following her scent leaving?
Yep.
I went over this with Ness on the marathon and asked her a question: if they had laid down something and placed her body on there, and then removed what she was on and her at the same time,
Right.
her scent would not be tracked on the ground because it'd be on the tarp or whatever they use to wrap her up
Right.
with.
Yes.
Brendan makes a statement that she was wrapped in a blanket. So where did he get that? Well, we all know where he got it from.
So I put that number in again because it's 608-261-7083, and that's on Ryan's thing. And it comes up cemetery certification form 1787. And that it's got the crematory stuff on here. It's pretty wild when you pull in there and you're seeing all this stuff. Why would you be calling? There's no reason for anybody who's taking the state boards. I'm a former nurse. All of that is done online. You go onto the NCLEX site, you register there, you get your assignment of where you're going to take your test for, you get your results there. Everything is done on that website. There's no reason for him to be calling that office at all. It tells you all the testing sites. It's all done online. I did it in 2007. It's been done that way for years.
Based upon what we've heard tonight, where do you think they found all these electronics? In Stephen Avery's barrel or on Kuss Road?
For me, in the burn barrel right next to the deer camp. And all they have to do, the ruse is a piece of cake. You dump it in a tarp and you put it in another burn barrel, and that's it. You just take a photograph and say, there you go.
I've been trying to go over these queso photos we have of the barrels in evidence, and I've yet to be able to find Stephen Avery's barrel because it's very significant because it's got bullet holes in it.
Bullet holes.
From when Bobby and Jody were standing at the garage shooting at the burn barrel. You hear Stephen Avery bitching about he has to pick up all Bobby's fucking shell casings because when he cuts the grass, they go flying.
They go flying. Correct. And I think it was Blaine. He said, yeah. I saw Stephen go to his burn barrel and it was smoking, right? And then he admit he lied. He goes, "No, I didn't see a damn thing," right? So you can see what Ken Kratz was trying to do. Big whopping fire, burn Teresa, fire burning in the burn barrel, burning the electronics.
Yeah, and I've only had the luxury to have somebody read the paragraphs from Kratz's book about Kuss Road. And he claims that where the bones were found in the quarry were directly behind Stephen's house and property. What we hear is completely different.
Right.
Why are they having to expand the crime scene by 2 miles?
Well, the thing is this, right? Ken Kratz didn't want to explain what those remains were doing at the Manitowoc County gravel pit. He didn't want to know anything about Kuss Road. The only thing we know about Kuss Road is that it's a non-event, right? You got a queso. How many reports are there about a Kuss Road? A couple of words, a couple of lines, and that's it, right? And we know that Colburn actually went down there twice and he helped dig. He helped dig.
He must have called. He wants some back. That was good.
Sorry, Dr. Silkman.
What did I miss something?
You missed it, yeah.
Comment from the peanut gallery.
Okay. This question. Can anybody else answer this besides me?
I want to say there was a non-working smelter on the property. Can someone confirm? Yes, there was. They had. I don't know if it didn't work, but they hadn't used it in 2 weeks. They verified that.
Yep.
Yes.
Correct.
So when Kim DeCott says what she says, she's being truthful. But why is she calling in as a confidential informant? Stating that the Averys have a smelter and they should check it. And then when they're she calls Two Police Department. They then notify the Manitowoc Sheriff, and he then in turn says, "Oh, we're well aware of this."
Correct.
I think the smelter that they had as well. I mean, there's different levels of smelter, right? So when I think of an aluminum smelter, I think of, the Terminator, right? And there's this giant cauldron that you could fit a Volkswagen into, right? And that's what I think of, when at an aluminum foundry, right? Something like that. But the one that the Avery had, I think, was more of a frying pan size that you use to recycle aluminum parts and melt them down.
Correct.
Not anything the size of that you'd find at a foundry level.
It'd probably be more effective if they would have cut her up and threw her inside the wood stove they had to heat the shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, of course, is that I was shocked. You could burn a human being, no problems, in a turbo burn barrel. But you cut up a body, you remove all the organs, remove all the blood.
If you put a body in an industrial smelter, there ain't gonna be shit left.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Gone.
Nothing.
Vaporized. Poof.
Gone.
Impurities.
Yep.
So when KZ was answering her questions about where the remaining of the body was done, she said it was a smelter, but she didn't say it was the aluminum smelter where Scott worked.
But she's basing that upon the Sikiki note. And the strange thing is that's found in Green Bay. The morning that they find Teresa Hallbach's RAV4 on the property, James Link is in Green Bay. Did he plant that letter? And as soon as they notify him that they found her car, what does he say? Well, if her car's there, she's got to be there somewhere. Then Jacobs chimes in. Do we have Stephen Avery in custody? Do we have a body yet? Makes me question. They have her car being seized on November 3rd in Manitowoc. Summary report.
Now on the 5th, where was Link at? He was in Twin Rivers.
He was in Green Bay.
He was in Green Bay.
Yeah. The dispatch call, he says, "Oh, I'm inside the police station."
For a while.
He has to walk outside so he can get better reception.
Right. But Millbilly, in your opinion, when do you think Kuss Road was actually discovered? What is the time on Kuss Road?
Like actual time of the morning?
No. What time did they find whatever they found at Kuss Road? What's the date? Is it
11/7.
11/7? Right. Here's my problem. The car, the RAV4, is found on the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone is going to plant that on the Avery property, the planter must have known that Teresa Hallbach was deceased or left the country for good, because you can't plant the car on her property and then all of a sudden you have a living, breathing Teresa Hallbach suddenly show up. So
exactly, yeah,
that'd be a real mess.
Her labeled as kidnapped.
Yeah, right, but.
Why is somebody looking for an address on Kuss Road 2 days before she's found?
Yeah. So what are they going to charge Stephen with? Kidnapping. What I'm saying is, did the planter know before the cremate or whatever was found at Kuss Road? Someone must have known that Teresa Hallbach was either dead or that she left the country. She faked her own death.
Yep, that's true.
Yep. There's no proof.
What do we think about? Do we think Leo is credible? Because that's it's like a tenth of a mile from where the stump was found.
Leo?
Yes.
No, I don't think he's credible. I think he's kind of a crackpot.
And when Leo R calls in, Wiegert is less than a half a mile from his house on the Avery property. And come to find out from research a bunch of us have done, Wiegert has a direct connection with Leo Richmond. What does he tell the dispatcher when he hears about it? Oh, that's not the case. Write it down, put it on my desk. I'll look at it later. Be nice to see all these follow-up sheets or lead sheets they have, if they even did them.
Well, Leo called 3 times, right? What? You played other calls from Leo. Leo's calls up and tells the dispatcher you realize the cops are framing Avery's, right? And the dispatcher's like, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know about Leo.
Why is Teresa's friend calling in stating that a number she couldn't recognize was all nines or all zeros? I don't know.
All zeros, yeah.
And she
Just quickly, when was that phone call? You said that someone rang up and said they're they're framing Stephen.
Oh, Cali, I've played it. It's in my channel. It's in the Cali.
Yeah, but do you know what date it was?
He called 3 times. He called the 5th, the 11th, and the 4th.
Okay.
Well, who do you think
And
must have
one
known
time,
that Teresa Hallbuck was
dispatcher,
dead?
he's like, they're all setting him up. She's like, well, I don't know who we are, but we aren't doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then she hung up on
And
him.
you see, Millbilly, that I hate to say this, but that brings up your 2 Rav theory.
Exactly. That's what I was about to say. That's where I was going. Kelly's doing a happy dance.
I didn't want to bring it up.
That's where I was going with that.
Right? Because someone had to have known that she was dead on the 3rd. Certainly by the 4th.
So, somebody did. The person who killed her would know that right away. Would have known that on the 31st.
But who planted the Rav?
Well, that leads me to another thing. We have a dispatch call from Manitowoc by an officer named Ryan. I don't know which office, police department he works for. It might be Manitowoc, Two Rivers. I don't know. It might be even the Manitowoc Police Department. But he calls because he was at the Senex in Michigan, and he observed a missing person flyer from Teresa Hallbuck and wants to know if the person's body they found that morning is Teresa. She says, no, it's Carmen Bootwell. I know that because my neighbor lives next door to her. But who is it that hung that flyer up at that Michigan gas station on the 3rd of November?
I hope to God it's not Ryan Hilligus.
Now we have Colburn's call of him calling in the place. And everybody hears somebody in the background saying, the car's here. Who was it? And
Well,
why didn't his attorneys focus on that?
It's either Pam of God or Ryan Hilligus. One of the two.
You did need a sound expert, though. I mean, Ripper is a pretty high-tech guy. I'm not sure that it was been that easily processed. I believe what it says. And Kathleen Zellner says she has also had a sound expert do the same thing.
Ron Flynn got a very expensive audio program that he used to enhance the audio we have. And I thank him for everything he's done.
And that, that's 2019, 2020 technology. That's 10 years is a long time. 15 years is a long time for technology to advance.
Her son ran the flyover footage through the same software, and it's been edited 4 times because it goes from a airplane to a helicopter to an airplane back to a helicopter.
It starts off with some woman in the beginning, and
correct.
You know who that is.
Yeah, and then you got Uyghur telling the other person how to remove the timestamp from the video.
Yes.
And we have Manitowoc Dispatch audio that states that they needed more 8mm videotape for their cameras. They were there every single day with video and camcorders.
Yep.
Where is
you know what? That video
Colborne.
footage.
It's all Colborne. When he
What?
arrives on the 5th of November, he's dispatched. He's supposed to be off the 4th, 5th, and 6th. He takes the 4th off, where he finds Kevin Ramelow at the gas station, Senex, same missing person flyer at the gas station that Officer Ryan is referring to.
Yes.
And man,
is it the same Senex? The exact same Senex?
Same one.
Wow, didn't know that.
Well, I'm telling you now, you want to solve the case, you get the footage, the raw, unedited footage.
Well,
that's going to be, wait for it. That's going to be the Zapruder film of the case. Right? Right?
That's right.
Be the Zapruder film of the case because someone went through it edited it and said, "Boys, we can't show this shit
Right.
because
gotta get
there's
buried.
no Bradford down there." Right?
That's right.
Like I
It's
said,
going to be the Zapruder film. The
Colburn's
Zapruder
supposed to be
equivalent.
off on the 5th. He's radioed in to do security at the checkpoints. As soon as he arrives at the checkpoint, he's advised to meet them at the command post. He's then assigned the team that's going to go in and search the Dassey and Stephen Avery residences. They then hear them say, "We're going to need some cameras." And Colburn chimes in, "Oh, I got all that already in my car.
Yes.
We don't need an evidence tech. We
Yep.
don't need
I just saw that Mark Hudnut has joined us. Mark, if you did not see the first part of this, please go back and watch the beginning of it on the replay and listen to the audio transmissions and the slides that Millbilly has put together. You really want to see them. Anybody who's joined us late, go back and rewatch this because there's a lot of information in that really tells a lot.
Yep. And I don't know. Anything else you guys like to add? I mean, we could continue talking forever, but
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, look, I think now how it panned out is pretty straightforward. One, you need to, whatever you found that Kuss Road, you needed to secrete it and take it out. Two, you need to sanitize the crime scene. How do you do that? You do it with the dogs. Make sure that nothing is left behind.
Keep in
So
mind,
it's clean.
they called in cadaver dogs first. They remove her car. Then they sent in cadaver dogs. And then they ask Fosk, "You think you could go back and track where her car came from in?" And she tells them, if her car was still there. Now, why wouldn't they call scent dogs in the first place? My
missing person? Why would you do that?
My guess is because they know it's not her car.
Oh, yes. Millbilly, that's fighting words.
We don't know how or why Wiegert thinks that the car was driven in through the back. He tells that to Redant, and that's in Redant's affidavit to Kathleen Zellner, that they know that the car was driven in through the back. Wiegert tells Stephen that in his November 9th interview right before he gets arrested. We know that car went into the back of the property.
No,
how do they know that?
Fassbender says that.
It's Fassbender. Correct.
Why do they think that? We have no idea why they think that. Was it because of a dog track? Was it because of tire tracks they found?
The dog
tracks.
They never reveal. They never say why. It's not in any report. No. We suspect it's the dog tracks.
They completely changed the narrative of what happened.
Yeah. Yes. That car got off the property, right? Wow.
Correct.
Well,
correct.
Your cell phone video we did. There's a dispatch call of a lady saying that she's seen the car fitting Teresa Halbach description. Yep. Put her flashers on, driving down 147 just after 2, closer to 3 maybe. And she's witnessed her turn onto R. Well, R just happens to run right into where the last cell phone ping is on her phone.
The white lot tower, yep.
Yep, and you know what is mind-blowing is that there's one, I was almost going to say a swear word. There's one person, one who can unlock everything. That's Bobby Dassey. If he actually comes clean, give him prosecution immunity. Say, yep, I saw her leave. End the party.
Well, I'm almost convinced they had that search history on his computer, and they used that to turn against Stephen.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence on if they actually had anything to do with Teresa Halbach's disappearance. But
no,
we don't know.
Bobby Dassey didn't.
We don't know. There wasn't a proper investigation done.
No.
So all we know is that he was framed. I believe that 100%, both of them, because the order of events that took place, how they went after Marie, trying to get anything they could to lock Stephen up on more charges. Correct. And then that didn't work. They went after Jody. Jody wouldn't flip. They released her from prison. They have no choice but to go after his only alibi. When do they
Brendan.
do that last ever in a criminal investigation? Wouldn't you check their alibis first?
Yeah, you would. Yep.
And remember, Brendan Dassey does tell the truth in his November 6th interview until that on the door.
Yep.
Oh, it is so scary. Skolinski, that I have to. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Oh, yeah.
That
I'm here.
fucking
Of course you can.
that fucking knew one day before when he spoke to Blaine, and Barb was there. Right, that's why they were fighting in the. I think it was a restaurant. They were fighting.
Fox Hills restaurant.
They were arguing because Skolinski knew from Blaine. They saw nothing, right?
The
And
problem
Blaine and his brother
Bobby Dassey
Brendan,
seeing her leave is Bobby left too.
correct.
Or I would
Yes, he
say
did.
Bobby left. Bobby's blazer left. Stephen Avery never actually went over to confirm who was in it, but his vehicle.
Someone in that blazer left. Correct.
Stephen talked to him 2 times prior to Teresa showing up, telling him to charge the battery for the van.
Yeah. I mean, why would Blaine say that he saw Bobby driving a bluish green vehicle opposite to the way the bus is traveling on 147?
Yep.
I need the answer to that question. Was it just? I mean, I don't think that Blaine would make that mistake about his own brother and be blabbing it. You know, he would. Surprised he said, "Why?"
Can I just say something about that though? Like, okay, the thing that I'm so agreeing with you here. I've always gone, why would he say that? And then I thought, hang on a minute, I can't be a hypocrite here because I turn around and I hear that Scott and Bobby passed themselves quickly and they gave themselves a quick wave, and everyone's gone, how would you know for that split second to wave and notice who they are? You're driving, you're not looking for it. And that kind of falls back on the other flip side of the Blaine thing. What made him look to see that it was Bobby driving a car? Why was he even looking out? You know what I mean? It would have been such a split second moment. What made him go, like, you know what I mean? Like that trigger moment, like, oh, that, you know, because if you can believe that, then you have to believe that maybe Bobby did see Scott. And if you think that's unbelievable, then you might have to consider that Blaine too might have just misidentified someone as well, because it would have happened so quickly. Unless you were looking for Bobby in a blue-green car, why would you even put 2 and 2 together?
I have an issue with them passing because you don't know how fast Bobby was going.
I have video that somebody sent me from the area. They drove from the turnaround all the way around the whole property from Q to everywhere, and she was driving past cars. They're not that driving that fast. She was doing a speeding limit.
Okay. What is the speed limit there? Ballpark.
Don't you think, Kelly, though, that Blaine wouldn't say it unless he was extremely sure?
I'm not trying to be rude here, but you can't say that when you have Brendan Dassey confessing to a murder we know he didn't commit. So if everyone says things that they're not sure about, that's just...
Yep.
You know what I mean?
He's now signed an affidavit to it, and he's probably doing this in the face of the family. His mother probably wants to kill him for doing it. I mean, do you think he's like, this is sort of like, a false memory?
It could have been just like it was a false memory that Brennan thought that he saw the bus driver and Teresa was there. It could have been just a implanted thought that, or maybe I did see him doing that. Again, I'm not saying I'm not debunking and saying he didn't. I'm saying that you have to consider that it could have been a miscommunication and he might have just tried to help him.
Way in hell the bus driver sees Teresa Hallbach taking pictures of the van where she drops them off.
Yeah.
Even she'd have to have binoculars to see that. And how is she driving a bus with binoculars?
Yeah. Having been a teen who may have done a few things I wasn't supposed to be doing, there's no way I would have driven a car that I wasn't supposed to be in past a bus I knew my brothers were on. I would have pulled over the side of the road. I would not have passed that and risked anybody.
The thing is, though, when Blaine makes that affidavit, Bobby's statement, she was at home sleeping.
Yes.
Yep.
So which is it? Is he sleeping or is Did he
But
just?
I'm just saying, the advocate says, if I was driving a vehicle that I knew was not mine, I would not drive by a bus I knew my brothers were on. I just wouldn't do it.
He didn't know what time it was. That's why he told them. Ask Scott. He can tell you what time it was.
Yep.
But
I'm telling you, you give Bobby Dassey prosecutorial immunity, say come clean.
Yep.
Yeah.
Come clean. Come clean. Because if you dissect his testimony, he was very, very clever in what he said.
Well,
very clever.
Why they're still hiding his interviews.
Correct.
And jail phone calls between Stephen and Jody. Her calling him before he's arrested,
Correct.
before the car is found. They're not releasing. Like, you FOIA'd for the calls, right?
Which ones?
So, I'm talking about Miss Hostile.
Yes, I requested all of Jody's from the time she went in until she was released in March. They told me absolutely under no circumstances were they releasing anything because she had a connection to someone who had a case in appeals. Would not even release the ones they have already released. Told me I could have nothing.
Well,
Yes.
I suggest reforming things, people, because if the state brought things out to look at, they're going to be accessible.
It's amazing what Mike Griesbach was able to get his hands on to do his book, anything he wanted, right? Ken Kratz it says he wants copies of everything for his own file.
Yes.
But we can't even get the phone call between Stephen and Jody before October 31st, right? It's just amazing
Well,
what they're hiding.
If they discussed rearranging the bedroom,
It's
party's
over.
over. Party is over.
I'm
Because
still
Brendan
saying I heard
Dassey
it.
said, huh?
I heard
Brendan
it. I
Dassey-
did hear
yeah.
it. I can't place. I can't. I've searched for it. I've heard that one, and I've also heard the one where he's discussing returning the rug cleaner, and that he used the rug cleaner on the van the day he was going when he was talking to Jody. That he had used it on the van. I've heard it.
Yes. Because
And
apparently,
Blaine and Brendan helped him clean the van out to get ready to sell.
yes.
And they were kind of disappointed because they wanted to get the van.
Correct. So this will be another confirmation that Brendan Dassey had no flipping idea what he was talking about. So if Stephen discussed with Jody, oh, by the way, I've rearranged my bedroom because I cleaned it using the rug doctor, and Brendan said I saw Teresa, locked up in the bed with her handcuffs as I walked in. No, you didn't, because the bed is the other way.
That's right.
Right? The bed was around the corner. So when Brendan said, yeah, when I went in there, I saw Teresa. She was handcuffed to the bed. Oh, so you saw her from the passageway? Yes, I did. Then the investigators are going, wait a minute. The bed is
The exact wording in the call. The exact wording in the call is Stephen telling Jody he's rearranged the room, and Jody is pissed off because she asked him when she moved in there to keep the bed in the position that it now is, and he wouldn't let her do it. So she's yelling at him because he wouldn't let her have it. And now that she's in jail, he's rearranged the room.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And you see, that's another dagger in Brendan's so-called confession.
Yeah.
Right. Brilliant. And that's exactly why they don't want to release the call, because if it's on record, oh yeah, by the way, love, I've swapped the bed around, and then you've got this sort of like weird situation where where Stephen is rearranging everything on the fly, including the dust, right? Including the dust.
And they even asked Jody about the bedding, and she said, well, our other bedding is up north in Crivets. So the bedding's not missing. He didn't burn it, anything.
No.
And if you listen to the jail calls, Jody's the one that says the last time anything was burned in his burn barrel, she is the one that did it.
Yep.
Stephen had no fucking clue.
No. And you see, this is the frustrating thing, guys. All of us here, all of us can see it's all bullshit.
Yep.
How come how come they won't let Kathleen Zellner go in front of a judge?
Oh, they can't. It'll be all over.
We know why. We know why, right? It's ridiculous.
Well, we got 8 days to find out what the fuck they're gonna do.
Yes.
Oh, procedurally barred. You can't have this.
I'm telling you now.
There were animal bones.
If the state wanted an extension, a word limit extension, you know what the answer is going to be.
What's
They've
that?
taken her. No, they won't give them a hearing. They would have used every legal tactic under the sun to take apart her whole case. Everything.
So they're not going to agree at all.
Nope.
Yeah, but it's up to the appeals court to decide what to do next.
Yeah. So I guess I don't understand your point. You think that the legal brief might say, oh yeah, sure, Kathleen should get her evidentiary hearing?
No.
Do you think that was even a possibility on this planet? That's the way they would have responded? No, I mean they're going to fight it tooth and nail to protect the verdict. Yeah.
I've always said
they'll do everything to protect the verdicts.
Higher courts prevail.
Go ahead, Billy.
Higher courts prevail.
Basically, what we're waiting for is they'll submit theirs hopefully on the 29th. Then Kathleen has her opportunity to come in and respond to theirs, and then the judges go and make their decision.
Correct. And they can take it as long as they want, basically, to do that. Right?
Hopefully, the same thing happened in the Colburn lawsuit. The judge was like, well, I'm getting conflicting stories from both sides, but I have no choice but to schedule an evidentiary hearing.
Yeah.
And now we're going to find out that Colburn admits that he's a public figure. His lawsuit's null and void.
Yeah, he has to prove now sort of some intentional malice or something.
Yeah.
In order to get anything out of that.
Specifically on him.
Yeah. He ain't going to get that.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Those of you that joined towards the end, I suggest you go back and watch from the beginning. We talked about a lot of stuff. Thank you again, Silkman, Miss Hostile, Kelly. There's 2 raps, and Big Jeff.
You're dreaming. Absolutely dreaming. Want to go round 3, do you? I want to go round 3.
That was sneaky.
We'll see. Well, thank you all for attending, and this has been a Millbury Discovery.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.